This is Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. The Vermont Green FC is headed to the national championships. This Saturday, our little soccer team that could will compete at their home field in Burlington against Ballard FC from Seattle. Later in the show, we're going to talk all things soccer and Vermont Green. And we want to hear from you, soccer fans. Did you go to the Green semifinal game this past Sunday against Gotham United? What's made you into a Vermont Green fan? Email Vermont Edition at vermontpublic.org now, and we will get to your emails and your calls about the Vermont Green later in the hour. First, though, some national news that affects our region. Criminal defense lawyers are currently facing months without pay. That's because the federal defender's budget ran out in July, and the coffers won't be refilled until October 1st. The issue has sparked a concern that private lawyers could decline taking on new federal cases. That would lead defendants across the country to have no representation, including in Vermont. Michael Desatel is the federal public defender for the District of Vermont. He's served in the role since 2006, and before that, he was in private practice in New York State for many years. Michael, welcome to Vermont Edition.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
And we're glad to have you. So talk to us about what exactly this money that has run out is used for. And could you give an example of the type of case that might be affected?
Sure. The money is used for exercising the implementation of the Sixth Amendment, which says that the right to counsel should apply to anybody charged with a crime for which he or she could do prison time, basically. On a local Vermont federal level, it means that money gets sent down through the U.S. Justice or the judiciary, the court system, comes into a federal defender office, which has 5 lawyers in it. And then it also is used to pay lawyers who are not in a federal defender office, but who do assigned cases at a court request, but who are in private practice. So it's the latter, those private attorneys who are most hurt by the current problems with budgets, but the problem actually is broader than just those. But I think those are the private attorney part of it is probably what I think you want to focus on.
Right. So private defense lawyers will agree to represent somebody in a federal criminal case. And it's those folks who are not getting paid right now. And that's through October 1st, yes?
That is correct. Yep.
Okay. And this is a nationwide issue, correct? I mean, it's affecting lawyers here, but in every single state.
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. And are defense lawyers still working despite not getting paid?
Generally, the answer is yes. And it's a little more complicated, but you can imagine that if a case started 6 months ago and 2 weeks ago, the lawyer was told that, hey, you're not going to get paid until October 1 at a minimum. The question arises, so do I just stop the work or do I keep on going and get paid only after October 1 if in fact there is money then? That's one sort of branch of the question. The other branch is what happens if there's a new case today? I mean, there are new cases that are starting in the federal court in Vermont today where people just charged are going to show up and not have the means to pay the lawyers. And so these private attorneys may get called by a court and they have to decide, this is branch 2 of the question, do they want to take on a case when they know that they're not going to get paid and they're not going to be able to get an investigator paid or an expert witness if they need until at least October 1, if not later than that.
So what happens if somebody can't pay for their own defense, can't find a lawyer who's willing to work under these conditions? That goes against the Constitution, right? If they don't have representation, what happens?
On a micro level in Vermont, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Across the country, there are definitely lawyers who are on these groups of approved lawyer groups. There's called a, quote, CJA panel. CJA is the expression for Criminal Justice Act. So they get paid through the Federal Criminal Justice Act. It's been around since 1964. So across the country, some lawyers on those quote panels have simply said, I'm not taking any more cases until this gets resolved. In Vermont, I haven't seen a concerted effort where the 35 lawyers on this panel and the 10 lawyers on a sort of training panel have just steadfastly said, we're done temporarily or until the near future. But that question is, are they going to be done? We don't know that yet.
Hmm. Um, Now you've been in your role since 2006. Have you seen something like this happen before?
Yes, it did happen before, not for this long a time. I mean, it's going to be at all of July, August, September until at least October 1. October 1 is the start of a new, what they call in the government speak fiscal year. So that's the start of a new budget year. That's why the October 1 date. So I've seen it happen for a couple of weeks, maybe even a month, but not for these several months. For what it's worth, the proposed budget, at least for the next year, starting on October 1, has a proposed time of at least 77 days of not paying these criminal defense lawyers too. So it's not a temporary problem that's going to go away with the next fiscal year, it appears.
Hmm. Uh, does the executive branch have any impact on this issue?
It's a really good question. I mean, technically and most directly, no. And because the funding for these lawyers, both federal defender offices like the one I had, and the private attorneys, the 35 or so, or actually 50 if you want to count the training ones, that money comes trickling down through the judiciary's budget, so the federal court system. So technically, the executive has no role in that. However, as we've all seen as Americans, the Congress is the one that funds the budget for the judiciary. And if there happens to be a particular executive in office who puts pressure on certain Congress folks to not fund the judiciary, that could happen. They could simply say, as they've already said, they being the House, and looks to be the same with the Senate coming up, they could simply say, we're going to cut drastically the federal judiciary budget, which then by implication means cutting drastically the criminal defense budget too. So that's a really long-winded way to say if Congress wants to take its directions from an executive and not fund the judiciary the way that it seems like is needed, then the executive by indirect action could have an impact.
Hmm. And one thing I think it's important to highlight too is that this doesn't just impact private attorneys in the case who are defending cases. It also affects the people that they use and pay to be part of those cases, like investigators and expert witnesses, translators. Do I have that right?
You certainly do. And it's near impossible, and it is impossible to properly defend somebody in this day and age with the complexity of federal criminal law with just some solo lawyer doing a job on her or his own. You need all those different other pieces to the defense that you're mentioning, and those all get approved by a federal judge, but get paid through the same pool of money. If I could just stress one thing about federal criminal defense, the lawyers that I'm talking about, first of all, they're highly, highly skilled. They've been vetted, they've been trained, they know what they're doing, certainly as lawyers in my office do too, but the private lawyers are very, very sharp. The vast, vast majority, some 90% of people across the country charged with criminal crimes in federal court, and certainly in Vermont, it's at least 90%, do not have the ability to pay 25, 50, whatever $1,000 for a federal criminal defense lawyer on a retained basis. And so the vast, vast majority of people in the entire United States, including Vermont, charged with federal crimes are represented by an attorney appointed by a court. That's just really, really important to know, I think. And there are federal defense offices and private attorneys through this Criminal Justice Act panel across the U.S. that have represented Congress people, they've represented people in the executive branch. It's not the drug dealer that comes up from Springfield, Massachusetts that gets this representation. It's people all across the the board, economic wise and socioeconomic wise.
And could you talk a bit more, Michael, about why a private attorney would take one of these cases on? I was looking at the U.S. Court's website ahead of this interview and read that these attorneys, known as panel attorneys, are paid $175 an hour in non-capital cases and $223 in capital cases, which is
Right.
significantly lower than the market rate.
I think the short answer is they really like to do it. Some of them really like to do it, and they do it despite the relatively low payment. Some do it in what they consider and talk about it being a service to the court. I mean, there are some that would do it whether it's a service or not. They just really love this type of work, and they believe in representing people that are indigent who are going to otherwise get potentially steamrolled by a federal government prosecutor.
Michael, you are about to retire, I hear,
Right.
after practicing law for 40 years. What have you been reflecting on more broadly, outside of just this one issue, as you reach this career milestone for yourself?
When Robert Kennedy in the 1960s was the Attorney General and was instrumental in pushing through the Criminal Justice Act so that really high level competent criminal defense would happen by the U.S. taxpayers. He had a real vision, and it's come to pass. I mean, criminal defense is very complicated. People definitely have to be skilled, and there are millions of people across the country who need the services. The kinds of cases, just because of what's called electronic discovery, all the stuff that's found on cell phones and recorded these days that federal prosecutors have in their evidence against people, that has completely drastically gotten more complicated, and it just makes it really a lot harder to defend a case than say it was 30 years ago when a quote case file might have consisted of a couple hundred pieces of paper. It's really drastic differences.
Okay, so you've seen the whole system change in many ways,
Right.
and you've also been part of some pretty unique cases. I understand you defended a California man who set fire to a Church Street office building last year, which included the offices of Senator Bernie Sanders. Are there any recent cases that you feel that you're at liberty to discuss that you feel particularly proud of being a part of?
Yeah, I would say it's not just the celebrated cases. I mean, we've had celebrated cases for 6 years. I was part of a defense team that represented Michael Jakes from Randolph, Vermont. It went from 2008 through 2014 before other folks and me were able to get a deal, quote, worked out where he could plead guilty and avoid the death penalty. That was a success. We, in my office, are currently representing person charged with the Border Patrol shooting, the Youngblood case, incredibly difficult, but needs to be done. Everybody is obviously incredibly sad that a Border Patrol member died. Nobody likes that. It's horrifically tragic, but so equally tragic is the federal death penalty. But it's the people who are more sort of run of the mill, and not in a bad sense, but just average people who get caught up in crimes in federal court, whether it's drug crimes or possessing a gun when they're not supposed to. And when we do a really good job in my office and the private attorneys in the panel do, and somebody avoids a long prison sentence, that's probably as rewarding as any of those large, more high-profile cases.
Michael Desautels is the federal public defender for the District of Vermont. Michael, thank you so much for your time today and for the work that you've done in our state.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Coming up, we are going to hear how Medicaid cuts could affect rural hospitals, and specifically their cybersecurity. This is Vermont Edition. Stay with us.
Thanks for listening to Vermont Edition, where support comes from Wendell's Furniture, home of wendellsdeals.com, offering furniture designed for a range of budgets, in stock and ready for summer. wendellsdeals.com. And Vermont Construction's roofing division, offering roof installation and repair with free estimates on asphalt and standing seam metal roofs. Now serving all of Vermont and northern New York. More at vtroofing.com.
Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Now that the One Big Beautiful Bill has become law, rural hospitals are bracing for Medicaid cuts. The law slashes Medicaid funding by nearly $1 trillion over the next decade. And it could affect hospitals' cybersecurity. According to a study from Black Book Research, 16% of small and rural hospitals that were polled plan to delay or reduce cybersecurity investments, due in part to these pending Medicaid cuts. Champlain College's president, Alex Hernandez, says higher ed needs to step up to build a local cybersecurity workforce. He joins us now. Alex, welcome.
Good afternoon.
So, okay, explain this a little bit better than I just did, because I don't quite get it yet either. How exactly does the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, which we've been hearing about for months and months, affect cybersecurity at small hospitals?
Healthcare access is critical, especially in rural communities. But access is about more than just doctors and nurses. Today, our medical systems run on technology, and if those are disrupted, appointments get canceled, operations get delayed, tests don't get run, lives can be lost. And unfortunately, in a time of shrinking budgets, you often see cuts made to places like cybersecurity. And we know that in order for communities to have access to healthcare, we need robust cadres of cybersecurity professionals making sure that our systems are running.
And how often is healthcare targeted by hackers? Is this a widespread issue or a fear about this potentially becoming more common in the future?
Both. We've seen some pretty dramatic attacks, one at the UVM hospital a couple of years ago. Last year in England, there was a massive attack on a network of hospitals. Over 10,000 appointments got canceled, 1,600 operations got canceled, 1 million patient records got leaked online. These attacks can bring medical systems to a grinding halt when they happen.
And are hospitals that are not part of larger systems more at risk? I mean, here in Vermont, we have the UVM Health Network, which is, big for us, maybe small compared to other markets nationwide. There's Dartmouth. And then there's also a couple, very small solo hospital operations.
So the more resources you have to support your technology infrastructure, the better protected you can be. And we know that smaller networks sometimes have the hardest time coming up with the resources to protect themselves. But we also see some pretty major attacks on larger institutions, on hackers coming in through things that everyone kind of just overlooked. And so I would say the smaller rural places are most vulnerable just because of lack of resources. But this is a growing threat that's only getting more sophisticated over time, which is why we just need to continue building the workforce pipeline of professionals to support our healthcare systems.
And I'm guessing too that small hospitals, they don't have like round the clock threat monitoring or a dedicated security operations center. They're relying on general IT staff, for example.
It could be, yeah, or people who are fractional support or consultants, and all those things can help. And we just want to make sure they have as robust a support as possible.
Mm-hmm. So you're the president of Champlain College in Burlington, and I'm guessing some of our listeners might be saying, why are we talking to you about hospital cybersecurity? But you're working to position Champlain College as a regional leader in this space. Tell us more. Why are you the one sitting in this chair right now?
So Champlain College has been building a workforce pipeline over the last 20 years to build the cadre of cybersecurity professionals in Vermont. And a lot of that was thanks to Senator Patrick Lacey's foresight that this was going to be a really big problem. Today, we educate over 600 students, both in Vermont and across the country, in cybersecurity fields. And we want them to be ready to make an impact. Over the last few years, we've seen growing interest among our graduates in medical fields and healthcare professions, which I think acknowledges the gravity of the challenges in the healthcare sector.
And Champlain College is doing a couple different things to train this army of cybersecurity workers. One of them is a partnership with New Harbor Security, which is a local company that's doing a lot of work in this space. Can you describe what that's like?
Yeah, part of getting students ready for careers is really about partnering with industry. The cybersecurity field moves so fast that if you're just reading about it, you're really not keeping up with it. And we have these incredible partnerships with companies like New Harbor Security, which is the leading cybersecurity company in Vermont. And they actually opened a office on our campus so that our students every day are able to be mentored, able to learn what's going on in the industry. And we think these connections to industry are really, really critical. And as states think about building these pipelines, figuring out how can higher education partner with industry and partner with government to create these extraordinary training opportunities so communities can have the cybersecurity talent they need.
I wonder, though, if there are any inherent risks, though, to partnering with a private company as a private college. Anything can happen to a company these days. Their CEO can become TikTok famous, or they could, cross the, any sort of number of legal lines, or they could go out of business. Was that a concern in any way? Because it does feel like a kind of unique partnership.
Of course, it's anytime you enter a partnership, you want to think about who this is going to be a good partner and do you share values? And we share a lot of deep values with New Harbor. When I first met them, about half their employees were Champlain College grads. So wow. We were not strangers. We together over the last decade have been really building cybersecurity training in the state of Vermont. And so this felt like a logical extension of our partnership. One of the things we recently did was launch a new program called Vermont CyberStart. And Vermont CyberStart is for high school students. It's a dual enrollment program to introduce themselves to careers in cybersecurity. So from their high school, they can take 9 to 12 college credits that count towards their cybersecurity degree. But it really allows them, because when you're a 17-year-old, 16-year-old, you probably don't know what cybersecurity is, and you don't realize what an incredible field it is. And you're really defending communities. I mean, this is heroic work. And so just giving students at an early age in Vermont an opportunity to do that and then continue their education with college credits through college. That was a program that we designed with New Harbor and also with the Career and Technical Education Centers in Vermont.
Okay. That it's a very compelling marketing strategy, but I'm thinking about, I have a couple nieces and nephews who are like 16, 17 years old, and I can't imagine them volunteering to be part of a cybersecurity class at college or in high school when they're both still figuring out what they want to do with their lives and trying to avoid the responsibilities of adulthood as many teenagers do. So how is enrollment been going? How are you getting kids excited about a program?
Yeah,
like
we
this?
had our first cohort in January. So we did our first inaugural cohort. We had a goal of 25 students. We had 38 students sign up. Wow. We're continuing to enroll students. I think for students, they're interested in figuring out how do we explore careers. And, how do we dip our toe into things? And the dual enrollment program is free for families. And so it's a really low risk way to try something new that you're seeing in the media, you're seeing it in movies. Our students probably, our children understand better than anyone how dependent we're on technology and all of the things that can happen when bad actors come into play. So really the goal of this program is to help give students that next step of what does it look like to put our toe in the water around this and see if this is something that interests us.
And Vermont is obviously a rural state. Are there opportunities for both high school and college students to learn remotely, to learn online?
Absolutely. The thing that most excited me about Vermont CyberStart is that 70% of the students who enrolled were from outside of Chittenden County. We also have an online program that has hundreds of students studying cybersecurity. They're all across Vermont. And so we really think deeply about how do we just not serve students in urban centers, but also students in other geographies in ways that make sense for them. And I think a lot of where higher education is going right now now writ large is figuring out how do we match the right program with where that student is in their life.
Yeah, and it's a pressing mission in part because it's really hard to keep a small private college afloat these days. I mean, Vermont has seen a number of small colleges close in recent years, like Goddard College and Green Mountain College. And I'm always interested to hear from leaders of these institutions, such as yourself, about the unique ways you're trying to attract a student body and make it work. It's very pressing.
Yeah, no, it is pressing. I think that Champlain College has always tried to evolve for what Vermont needs at any given moment in time. And as we look at the demographic challenges in Vermont right now, where we have 17,000 people leaving the workforce every year, and we only have 5,000 high school seniors, and not all of them are going to college, we need to build workforce pipelines for this state, for our state to thrive. And we believe that one of those places is cybersecurity. I think because of the foundation that Senator Leahy put down and the work that we do with things like the hospital and the Air National Guard, there's such a need for cybersecurity talent in this state. And so we're small enough that we can come together between higher education and industry and government to create these really robust pipelines. But I also think it's a lesson that other states and other small colleges can take in terms of how do you partner with your communities to make the best for everyone.
And Champlain College has been around since the
1878.
1878, late 1800s. You have obviously not been there since 1878, but I wonder how you have seen the college transform, both in your time there and from what you've heard from longstanding faculty and staff members.
Yeah, the Champlain College we know today is really about 25 years old. We famously went from a 2-year institution to a 4-year institution. And during that time, we really invested in technology and art and creative and business and the intersection of these things. And so if you look at where the world's gone over the last 25 years and all the evolution, technology and AI, it's really about the collision of these fields. And so, right now we're in a really kind of energized moment where we're redesigning our programs to kind of meet the needs of what the world needs for higher education in the next 10 years. And so as an example of that, we think experience really matters. That one of those frustrating things when you're a college graduate is someone says, how much experience do you have? And we want experience baked into the education. And so when our cybersecurity students come onto campus their first year, they're immediately doing real cybersecurity work with corporations, with government. They're not waiting until their junior year. We call that our upside down curriculum. And the reason that matters is a lot of higher education kind of says, hey, go get those experiences after you leave us. But we think in order for students to be employed, in order for us to prepare students for the workforce, building experience into that education throughout is really, really important.
So is there a world in which you might get rid of certain degree programs that are not seeing this level of interest that you are talking about in the cybersecurity program? Like VT Digger reported recently that there was an enrollment decline in the accounting program, for example, from 60 students in 2015 to 20 students in 2024. And there's a number of other programs like the law program, data analytics, that have also seen a pretty drastic decline. What do you do with those numbers?
Our programs evolve. And so, for example, in our business programs with accounting, we're continuing to offer accounting, we're continuing to offer finance. What we see is our students want more flexible programs. And so we've designed a much more flexible business degree where students can bring together things like accounting, things like finance, things like entrepreneurship. I think we're launching new majors around sonic arts. We're launching new content around artificial intelligence. So it's really just how do we adjust our programs, evolve our programs, launch new programs so that students really get what they need to hit the ground running. Historically, our students are employed or have a successful career outcome, about 90% of them within 6 months of graduation. In order to do that, we need to equip them with the skills they need to hit the ground running. Last year, we made a big investment in artificial intelligence. We announced a partnership with Anthropic, which is one of the leading artificial intelligence companies. And the reason we did this is we looked around at what our students were being asked to do, what they were being asked from employees, where the opportunities were. It was really clear they needed to be equipped with some AI skills as they hit the workforce, and those things are evolving really, really rapidly. So I think, our story is one of adapting and evolving for what students are going to need so they can succeed. And we know across the country what students are being asked to do, graduates are being asked to do, is changing.
So do you foresee any cuts to programs or staff in this coming academic year?
No, we do not.
Okay. And as we head into the fall, it is coming, students, I'm sorry. What is one thing that you are really excited about happening at Champlain College in this first semester that students will be back?
I think just seeing our students get engaged in our program. So last year, we're known for our projects and our hands-on learning. And last year, one of our greatest projects was done by 4 students who was really interested in the security of medical devices. And they took about 4, 5, 6 medical devices, and they just did everything they could to hack into them. And they learned a lot, and they taught our community a lot about what it takes to secure healthcare systems. And so one thing I'm really just excited about is seeing all the amazing things that our students are doing. The other thing we recently announced is we're going to be doing co-ops where students can work full-time and be full-time students. And so as we think about getting students more and more experiences in the workforce, that's another thing that another option that we're adding for students that we think is going to be really equip them to succeed going forward.
Alex Hernandez is the president of Champlain College, which is based in Burlington. Alex, thank you so much, and good luck in the upcoming school year.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're going to take one more short break here, but soccer fans, do listen up, because when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Vermont Green FC's upcoming championship game this Saturday and the devoted fan base that the team has grown. Call in and tell us why you are a Vermont Green fan. Our number is 800-639-2211. This is Vermont Edition. Stay with us. Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Michaela Lafrac. What a journey the Vermont Green Football Club has been on these past few years. The Burlington-based soccer team began playing in the USL League Two in 2022, so just a couple years ago. And now the boys in green will be duking it out for the league championship this Saturday against Seattle's Ballard FC. We know a lot of you out there are big fans of the green, and we would love for you to call in and tell us why this team has become important to you. Or maybe you could describe the scene at a game for our listeners who have not been able to attend one this season. Our number is 800-639-2211. Here to tell us more about the Green's exciting season is Jack Fitzsimmons, sports director over at WCAX Channel 3. Jack, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Michaela.
Yeah, so were you at the game this past weekend against Gotham United?
Yes, I've been at every one of their playoff games. I was working on Friday night, covering the game against Lionsbridge, and then I was there in the stands with the rest of the crazy fans on Sunday, kind of taking it in and enjoying yet another dramatic victory for Vermont Green, which has been making a habit of that of late.
Yeah, could we just do a brief recap? I was not there. I was watching it on TV, but I was losing my mind on my couch at home when it went into penalty kicks. Give us a little recap of the game.
Yeah, so basically, Dothan United is a team that comes from Alabama. They're really sound and strong defensively, and their goalkeeper was out of his mind. He previously was in the academy for one of the really strong teams in South America. I don't remember if it was Argentina or Brazil. I believe Argentina. But so he is a very talented goalkeeper, and the Green had several really good chances to score. Dothan had maybe the best chance of the game to score. Neither team was able to score through regulation. They go into 2 15-minute extra time periods, still scoreless, go all the way to penalty kicks, and that's where things obviously got a little bit crazy. Vermont missed their first kick, but then immediately got that back with Nicholas Herseg making a save. If that name sounds familiar to people who haven't been following the green, there's a good reason for that. He is also the goalkeeper for UVM. And he made a save, at least one, and there might have been a miss as well. I couldn't remember if it was 2 saves in the national semifinals for UVM against Denver this past fall. But he ends up making 2 saves in that penalty shootout, then allowing Owen O'Malley to score the 4th penalty for Vermont in the 5th round to then clinch it. They won it 4-2 after a scoreless draw through 120 minutes. So that's what got them into the national championship game this weekend.
Yes, and okay, you're gonna have to help me out here because I got to say, soccer and the leagues totally confuse me. The
Right.
Vermont Green is in the USL, the United Soccer League. Can you explain exactly how this league works, the different tiers, and how it is the same or different from MLS?
Yes. So basically, they're 2 entirely separate entities. MLS functions currently as the only Tier 1 soccer league in the United States. They're the only one that has official U.S. soccer sanctioning to be a Tier 1 league. They've kind of got their own developmental system through their academies. They've got they started a new league that's basically just a developmental league called MLS Next Pro, and that's kind of existing in a different space than what USL is. And USL has currently 3 tiers: USL Championship, which is considered the second best league in the United States; USL League One, which is a semi-pro league, which is a tier below that; and then USL League Two, and that is the league that Vermont Green is in. USL League Two is primarily in large parts, it's an amateur league. There are players largely coming from NCAA schools that are coming over the course of the summer and playing for these teams. There are a couple of guys who might have graduated and are out of NCAA eligibility. Vermont Green had one a couple years back by the name of Nacho Larach, who had graduated 2 years earlier from UVM, was playing on the team. And basically, if there's somebody who has played pro soccer, then there is a process to basically regain your amateur status to be able to play in this league. Jacob Labovitz is an example on this current Vermont Green team of a guy who played in USL League One previously, who is now playing in USL League Two. There is a whole separate thing coming with USL in terms of a larger sporting organization in the next couple of years. They are starting a new league which will slot in above USL Championship and will receive full Tier 1 sanctioning from US Soccer. And what that will mean is that in the eyes of the official federation in the United States, the new USL league will be on par with MLS. Obviously, there will be some growing pains associated with that. From a financial perspective, MLS has a massive financial advantage, but the idea being that USL is going to have a true peer competitive league at that same level as MLS, and they're going to become the first league in United States soccer that has promotion and relegation.
Okay, that was my next question for you.
Yes.
If the Vermont Green wins this weekend, do they get to go to one of these other leagues?
That's still not how it works for their purposes. So they're inserting a new tier above USL League Championship that will be a new Tier 1 league. USL Championship will be Tier 2, and USL League 1 will be Tier 3. USL League 2, where Vermont Green currently is going to remain outside of that system because it is the rosters change from year to year so frequently, and it's you have guys coming and going over the course of the summer based on what their college coaches allow them to do and when they've got to leave, et cetera. So USL League 2 is going to remain outside of this promotion and relegation tier. There
Okay.
has been some conversations within the club about the potential for exploring a move up into the professional ranks at some point. Right now, that is very much theoretical. There's a lot of work that would need to happen between now and then in order for them to get into USL League One. But if they get into USL League One, they then theoretically could play their way up to this new top USL league at some point in the future.
Oh, okay. So some changes potentially in the works. And
Down the
meanwhile,
line, yes.
just in the past couple years, the Green have built up such a devoted fan base. It's been really fun to watch this happen. And I want to play a clip here from a story that my colleague Burgess Brown recently reported about one of the Green's fan clubs. It's called the Green Mountain Bahoys. That's Bhoys.
The stands are packed as 2,500 fans cram into the metal bleachers. Tickets for this match against the Hudson Valley Hammers sold out in less than 4 minutes. The match is underway, and the Green Mountain Bahoys rip through their repertoire of chants. This section is equal parts spectating and party. The on-field action isn't quite as exciting. The first half ends without a goal for either side. But Sarah LaRush isn't worried.
The second half is kind of like our bread and butter because they are scoring on this end. I feel like they feel a lot more of the vibe and the encouragement and just like energy that we bring.
The second half does not start according to plan. The Hudson Valley Hammers score a screamer in the opening minutes. But the Bahoys keep the energy up in the stands, and just a few minutes later, the Green are awarded a penalty kick. Arnaud Tadavine steps up, the crowd goes silent, and he buries it.
And they ended up winning that game 4-1. Jack, how have you
Correct.
seen the Vermont Greens fan base grow over the past couple of years?
So it's been incredible just to see the increased level of buy-in. That group, the Green Mountain Boys, was there from the start. They were at the inaugural game. Most of them, at least certainly the ones that you see at the front, are generally season ticket holders. They're there every game, and it's been a lot of the same people from year to year that have consistently been there. When the league first started, not the league, that the team first started up in 2022, they were starting out getting them probably about 1,000-ish fans, maybe 1,100, maybe 1,200, and it's just kind of grown precipitously from there, partially because of the level of success, but also partially because, I don't know, it's just providing somewhat of a pro sports atmosphere to Burlington. During the summer when there isn't as much of an opportunity. Obviously, the Vermont Lake Monsters have been here for a while, and they still sell out a bunch of their games. I believe they sold out last night with their final hot dog hysteria night. But
Yeah,
there's also
25-cent
just
hot
a
dogs.
level.
How could you stay away?
Exactly. But there is also, I think, just a level of, in the state of Vermont, soccer is the biggest sport for a lot of people. Everywhere in the country, there's a lot of people that grew up playing soccer. I know that I grew up playing soccer. It became kind of more and more prevalent 70s, 80s, 90s. And because of that, and now the access that people have to being able to watch the top tier pro leagues from the European countries on television and having all of these discussions, all of these talking points. There's different radio shows, podcasts, TV shows, etc. The FIFA game for me, I know, was a huge avenue into kind of learning more about the global soccer community. I think that it's resonated a lot more in the United States in general, and for whatever reason in Vermont, it's just really kind of stuck in the minds of people to the point that this state to me, it seems like it continuously punches above its weight in terms of soccer success. And I think that because of that vibe, that feeling, and the level of success the team has been able to have on the field, it's also just kind of catapulted into, I don't know, just craziness where you have people that are packing the side of the hill under Gutterson Fieldhouse and climbing up on fences, climbing up on shipping containers and pull-up bars during the penalty shootout.
Yeah, what are we going to do about
fence.
this? Is there going to be a new stadium, expanded seating at Virtue Field?
So that is one of, again, the many theoretical discussions that the club tells me that they are having. And the first step with that is talking with the University of Vermont. Obviously, if we're talking about major infrastructure projects at the University of Vermont, there is some major concerns and consideration because we have this other big infrastructure project that has not been able to proceed at the rate that they were initially hoping and had initially talked about with the full renovations at Gutterson Fieldhouse. They've done many of them, but they have not fully completed that project yet. And then also, obviously, the construction of what was supposed to be the Terrence Center for a new basketball arena. So I think any conversations about
I think there's
expanded-
still that banner on it that says it's coming.
yeah,
It's been there for many years.
It's been there,
Yeah.
yes. So I think that dramatically complicates the idea of trying to expand Virtue Field. Obviously, there are situations when, from UVM's perspective, they would like to have more seats. For example, when their men's soccer team is hosting a game deep in the NCAA tournament, obviously they could generally sell out more than 2,500 seats. I've I think seen one other sporting event at Virtue Field that wasn't Vermont Green that sold out the entire stand, and it was when the men's lacrosse team hosted a first round or an opening round game in the NCAA tournament a couple of years ago. But I don't think that it's necessarily as much in the forefront of the minds of the people at UVM to try and expand that stand, because they haven't had quite that level of demand and insistence on more than the 2,500 people being able to go there. And they've got all of these other infrastructure projects. They are building a new support building. I think it's the Pizza Gali building is what they're going to call it, on the outside of Virtue Field, that is going to have locker rooms and restrooms and concession stands and ticket stands that they're currently constructing. So if you see kind of the two levels of fencing beyond the goal that's closest to Gutterson Fieldhouse, the people that have traditionally stood or sat on the hill or have to be a little bit further back than they've previously been because of this other construction that's going on. I don't know in terms of finances and in terms of desire, in terms of how far along we could potentially be in terms of expanding Virtue Field's capacity. And if that is going to be the case, the club has talked about whether they need to consider other options and just kind of what the geographical layout is. But I think at any point, and you never want to say like, oh, everything comes back to money, but in many situations it does. And if they were going to try and either expand Virtue Field or build a 5 or 10,000 seat soccer specific stadium with stands all the way around the field, the money's got to come from somewhere. And at this point in time, there is not a real definite answer as to where that would come from.
All right. Well, funders, listen up. You with the extra cash, we want some new seats because they are selling out. I hear like within less than a minute, the semifinal game, and I'm sure this one for the championship game sold out immediately as well. I want to share an email from Alan in Colchester who writes, the conscientious and creative co-owners and their mission, the coaches, players, fans, and of course, Tom, the announcer, are a magic combination that make Vermont Green a phenomenally exciting and very family-friendly experience. I fear they will outgrow UVM and wish there were more seats to accommodate the growing fan base and success they are having. I'd love to see Vermont Green FC stay there and also expand and fully field a women's team. Their friendly matches have been amazing, and it's clear there's a hunger for more women's soccer. We are lucky to have this club here in our community. Thanks, Alan, for writing in. Jack, what's this team's chances on Saturday's game? What do you know?
It's going to be very interesting. So the team that they are playing against, Ballard FC, is a team that's based out of Seattle, Washington. And they actually won the national championship in USL 2 years ago, back in 2023. From what I can tell, both on social media from their side and also listening to some of the players and coaches talking at practice the other day with Vermont Green, I think both sides are coming into this game fairly confident that they are in good shape. One of the interesting quirks about this particular matchup, a lot of the Vermont Green founders have talked about, it's not exactly a sister club, but kind of similar messaging, similar priorities, and similar vibes around Ballard as well. So that's kind of a fun little tidbit. But there's also two players from the University of Washington, Gabe Fernandez and Alex Hall, on this year's Vermont Green team, And Ballard being based out of Seattle, that's where the University of Washington is located. So I believe it's 5 of their current teammates and 2 of their former teammates are playing for Ballard in this game. So I know that those 2 guys are having their brains picked a little bit on the best way to attack some of their teammates as we go in here on Saturday. It's really hard to make a prediction because these teams just really haven't played against any of the same opponents.
Right.
They've been kind of fully separated in their different conference structures, even going through the playoffs. Listening to what the Vermont Green guys tell me, they're pretty confident. So I'm going to take their word for it and go into this game with the not necessarily full expectation, but certainly the confidence that Vermont Green has every opportunity to win this game.
Well, we are very excited to watch your full report after the game, no matter what happens. Jack Fitzsimmons is the sports director over at WCAX. Jack, thanks as always for coming on to talk sports with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, that's all the time we have for Vermont Edition today. Our show is directed by Aaliyah Papes. John Ahrens is our managing producer. Andrea Lorian and Daniela Fierro are our producers. Our intern is Callie Knuxerl, and our call screener is Rick Barrett. Our theme music's composed by Myra Flynn. I'm Michaela Lafrac. Thank you so much for listening. Go Green, and we'll catch up again soon.